we'll walk around. We'll walk around this stand a little bit now so you can get a better feel for what it looks like, and we'll look a little bit closer at some of the regeneration. And remember, the regeneration has been planted, although there may also be a little bit of natural regeneration in here as well. So let's start over here. Cheryl, can you say what species this is here?
We got a Douglas fir there. So that was planted just a little bit over 1 year ago. So it's roughly doubled in height from the size that it was when it was planted. It's doing quite well. It looks quite healthy.
Okay. And what how old are the seedlings that you typically plant here?
They're 1 year old.
Okay. So clearly this is a really fast growing tree.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. And I notice we've got a little bit of natural regeneration here. We've got some hemlocks. So I know hemlock is quite shade tolerant, but also just very prolific. Will it be too bright and too exposed for these seedlings, do you think, or will they hold on for a little while?
Nope, they can do that too, and they could thrive there, but ideally what's going to happen right here is that the planted Douglas fir, having got a head start, is going to be the winner. So it's going to have some competition around it, but it's ahead of the rest.
Uh-huh. And I see, just thinking about other early successional species or species that thrive in disturbed sites, I think I see a lot of salmonberry here. Mm-hmm. What other vegetation do you typically see coming into a site like this?
Well, there is quite a lot of herbaceous vegetation here too, although it's drying out and it's not the best time of the year to see it because a lot of that just dies down and browns off in the summertime. There are other berry-producing species, so other rubus species. Mm-hmm. So this is another one. Its common name is the black raspberry, mm-hmm. so it's a little bit different from the salmonberry. I see sword fern, mm-hmm. which was presumably here before the stand was logged, and it did survive the logging and doing fine. Mm-hmm. They're pretty tough.
Yeah, and I think I see some red elderberry, which I think also tends to thrive in...
Red elderberry.
Thrive.
Good one.
Okay.
Yeah. And right here I see a deer fern. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And here's one of the herbaceous plants. Let me see, which one is this? That looks like...
It's one of the Myanthemum relatives, right? Is that
just... No, it's actually not. It's not a Myanthemum. So this will maybe be something like a star-flowered Solomon seal.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing.
Very good. All right, and I see over here, here's one of the... If I can get over and crouch down a little bit.
Aha! Looks like you lost one.
Yeah, here's one of the white pine seedlings. It's looking a little...
Yeah, it's looking a little parched.
Do you think that's just a...
Very difficult to say at this point. Mm-hmm. Now, we've got plenty of trees here, so, we could always sacrifice it, but one of the things that can take them down at this stage, it could be drought, but it also could be that it's encountered a little bit of root disease. Okay. Oh, actually, it's been kind of smashed down by a little bit of slash creep too. So it looks like it was planted in there, but somehow some of the slashes got pushed onto it, maybe by winter snow. So maybe it was just being kind of pushed over too, because it was planted down in there.
I don't think I'd heard of slash creep before, so I think we've probably told the students slash is the wood that is not marketable and is left behind, mm-hmm. but it can kind of slide down or move down the hill over time and potentially impact the...
Yeah. I don't see any evidence of root disease. You'll often see some resinosis around the root collar if there was anything like that. So, yeah, it could be that it was just suffering a little from being pushed over and it's struggling. It might survive, it might not. We'll have to see what happens.
Is resinosis when you have resin kind of exuding from the stem?
Yeah, and it'll usually be, a kind of a noticeable white color, right? Okay. And that's a sign that there's something that's damaging it, underneath the
something in
the
bark.
Cambium. Yeah, something in the cambium. That's right, or between the phloem and the xylem, mm-hmm. somewhere in there. And it's potentially a root rot. Other situations it could be an insect. There are certainly some kinds of insects that get around the root collar. Not locally here, but sometimes mm-hmm. that's what it is.
I see another white pine over here that's looking much better.
Oh, good. Yes. Yeah, most of them look really good. That's what I've seen so far today.
So this one looks like that.
Trying to put up another leader. Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay. Those are its shoots. So it hasn't really formed its buds yet. We're in kind of the mid-flight of summertime, and it's really interesting actually because it's branching and it's probably going to have multiple buds. But usually one of them will become the dominant, and it'll be fine.
And I see a few volunteers here, some natural regeneration just for comparison. So we've got, I think these are all Western hemlocks here. And then right over here is a Douglas fir.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Douglas fir typically have pointy buds. Is that right? Is that
That's
one
right.
characteristic? And I think you could probably, students can probably see that the needles on the Douglas fir, the seedlings, are much more uniform in length.
Right.
And kind of spread out all around the twig, where the needles on the Western hemlock are much more variable in length and don't seem to be quite as much around the twig.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, but I think I see one. I'm gonna double back here. See one nice example of the other species you mentioned. Here we go. So here's a Western red cedar that looks pretty robust. And this is kind of an interesting planting position. It looks like they planted it kind of in just a little nook in the roots of that.
It's quite common to plant them on the kind of cool side of a stump. That's often a really good growing position because it just gives it a little bit of shelter.
So probably on on the north aspect or northeast aspect of a stump.
And it's just a little more favorable. So, you know, it's actually a really good spot, and the tree looks really vigorous. It's interesting, though. What I see is in its first year, not recent, but in its first year, deer were browsing it. So I can see the shoot was getting chewed back in some of the lateral branches, and so what's happened is now it's actually popped up 2 liters. Now, hopefully it won't turn into a forked tree. I doubt it, because usually what happens is one of them will become dominant. I'm guessing this one, it looks more robust and it's a little taller, and that one will smarten up and turn into a branch, and you'll have a healthy tree. It looks very healthy.
So I know, like, in the part of the U.S. where I'm from, deer browse is a really significant problem for tree regeneration. Is it much of a problem here for?
Yes.
And is it which are some species more and less susceptible to deer browse?
That's right. So the favorite winter food of the deer here is Western red cedar, and they prefer that over all other species, so they're particularly susceptible.
And do you get browse on the other species?
Not very often. I mean, occasionally they'll browse the fresh summer growth of a Western white pine or a Douglas fir, but it's not their favorite. They'd much rather eat the shrubby and herbaceous vegetation, so they'll only do that if they really don't have anything else around. So usually those species are safe. But in the winter, when all that shrubby and herbaceous vegetation either dies down or loses all of its foliage, that's when they really rely on the Western red cedar, and they're very important to them.
Okay. And let's see, it looks like as I kind of look around and think about the trees that we were looking at, it seems like they're spaced maybe around 2 meters apart or so.
A little more than that, actually. So the intertree spacing here will be more in the 2.7 to 2.9 meter range.
Okay.
So that works out to a density of about 1,400 per hectare.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of it a little bit earlier when we were pointing out some of the other vegetation that was coming in. In this particular site, or generally speaking, I know sometimes there could be challenges if you have a lot of other early successional vegetation coming in that can crowd out the trees and cause trouble for the regeneration. Yeah. Do you have any concerns for this site, or generally in Malcolm Knapp? Is that an issue that you run into, and are there certain species that tend to be more challenging?
Yeah, I think for this research forest, and this is true in a lot of places, a lot of it depends on how moist and nutrient rich the site is. So the more moist and the more nutrient rich typically, then the more variety of species and the faster growth of this competing shrubby and herbaceous vegetation you're likely to get. I mean, that's a general truism. But basically you can usually predict the type of post-harvest vegetation competition from 2 things: the type of disturbance that you've created, so your silvicultural system, and the harvest and any site preparation you might have done after harvest. That's part of it. And then the other part of it is just what are the ecological site attributes. So it's not going to be too bad here. I mean, we're planting it promptly, and there's going to be plenty of time for these trees to release and to get away and become free growing, and you know, they'll manage fine with the shrubs and herbaceous plants around them. Other places we have a real challenge. The western white pine and the western red cedar are a little slower on their height growth than the Douglas fir, so they tend to be more challenged. But they're still very valuable, especially the western red cedar.
Yeah.
So there can still be very good management reasons why you want them. You know, they're very important for many values. First Nations values, you know, is a very, very important one, and timber value too, and many other values as well.
And as you said, thinking about the unknowns of the future as far as climate and potential new pathogens or insects and markets. It's not, we don't necessarily know what the best, what mixes of trees are going to be working well in the future.
Right. And it's not to say that you should never, you know, just go with a monoculture of one species. There may be justification, you know, this is a great big world. But here, you know, because of the climate and the soils in this part of the world, you know, we're talking about a long time frame before trees reach a merchantable size, before they will be, you know, big enough to start satisfying the objectives that we have for them. And so there's a lot of risks over that time. And so this is a way to manage those risks through greater diversity. If you had a really short rotation and you had more certainty and fewer risks, you might be able to get away with, you know, fewer species or maybe just one.